up towards Cottonwood Lake. It's just outside of Buena Vista. This will be our first, really a trail report. I don't usually call these first ones a trail report because there's just not a lot to report because it's still winter in the mountains. But we're gonna head up and look at the snow levels. We just pushed a Honda Accord out of the road there, helped this guy turn around and sent him on his way. So thankfully I didn't have to crawl under it and try and find a way to hook it up. I was just able to back him up and push it down the road. So go up to the lake and see what it looks like. So we're just driving past the lake now. It's been maybe a few cars. I see a couple tracks in front of us in the road. This is late afternoon, so I'm not surprised. People have already been up here. But yeah, we'll go up to the boat launch, look around, talk about some snow levels. So here we are at the end of the road. This is just past the little turnaround here right above the boat launch there on Cottonwood Lake. And the reason we're stopping here for now is because this is the side of the seasonal closure. And I've talked about this before. This is a new one that came in 2 years ago. But if you look, there's only over the snow vehicles allowed beyond this point until April 15th. So we got like 10 more days that this is. It's maintained by Buena Vista Snowdrifters, our local club there in town. A lot of people snowmobile or cross-country ski, snowshoe, maybe even fat bike up here. And that's, we've got a couple new ones that came into play in 2022 with the Pike San Isabel decision on seasonal closures with over the snow travel. Sometimes I've called them over the snow closures in the past, and it's confusing and it's probably not accurate. It's really a wheeled motorized closure because it is an over the snow route right now. So it's reserved for winter sports, winter travel until the date on the sign there. The ones that are above St. Elmo, so Tin Cup and Hancock, are both under a wheeled motorized closure now until May 15th. So they're a full month later than it is over here in the South Cottonwood drainage. So we'll be back on the 15th to see, what the snow levels are past this point up there farther, but there's no tracks in the snow, so it looks, other than foot traffic, so it looks like everybody's obviously been obeying that, seasonal closure. We've got really like 3 types of seasonal closures now in the state of Colorado. We have what this is a wheeled motorized closure for over the snow travel, and then we've got wildlife seasonal closures, 2 different ones. Talk about those in a minute. And then like a mud closure, so conditions closure. It doesn't usually affect areas up here this high in the mountains, just because some of these trails don't melt out till June or July, so you wouldn't be able to have a closure on the entire route all the way until everything is dry. Those are usually more in the lower elevations where early spring conditions with mud can be a big issue. But the wildlife closures, we've got 2 of them. That's why there's different dates that you'll see on them. Winter range closure usually comes off around May 1st, maybe May 15th in certain areas. And then the longer ones that are extended until like June 15th are for calving season. So these 2 closures are typically for elk. The ones on the other side of the valley down here in 4 Mile are for winter range. So those come off May 1st. We'll go over and look at those trails as soon as those areas open. But then in the, South Park District just to the north end of 4 Mile there, that's why those routes are closed until June 15th. It's because of elk calving in those areas. And we don't usually have wildlife closures up here, obviously, because this is not where the elk winter up at this elevation, at this snow level, because it's, really hard or harder for them to survive this type of environment. They're down lower, you know, we saw some even coming up here. They're down towards the hayfields and the lower lands where it's much less harsh conditions. So just a little bit lower down here, back down towards the lake. And this is what it'll look like. I mean, there's some really shallow sections up here that have kind of freeze-thaw cycled. The lake's obviously still all covered in ice and now snow too. This is about 9,600 feet elevation. So it's really not even, you know, that high comparatively to the elevations in Colorado. I mean, just in the Arkansas River Valley, Leadville, the town is at 10.2. So when you still see these types of winter conditions, you know, here at just over 9,500 feet. First weekend of April, that's usually what we're talking about, is that, you know, it could be a lot warmer temperatures down lower elevations on the Front Range, you know, 70s, maybe even hitting 80 next week. But it still looks like this up here. And so regardless whether you feel like we had a good winter or a bad winter, you actually look at data to see whether we had a good or bad winter, or what parts of Colorado had a bad winter actually this year and what parts of Colorado are kind of average for this year. We'll look at some snow-tail data too. This is what it looks like, 9,600 feet in central Colorado. So I look at snow-tail data a lot. I use them in the videos in the early seasons just to see where we're at comparatively from years past. So upper Arkansas, this is like the snow-tails from St. Elmo, then to the north all the way up to Fremont Pass. When I looked today, it was tracking exactly 100% of the median. So it is right on the median line for this time of the year. Some of those snow-tails slightly above, like the Fremont Pass one's about 110% of the median. Some of the snow-tails are slightly below. When I looked at the St. Elmo one this morning, it was in the low 80s, low 80s for percent of the median. But the drainage, upper arc, at least as a whole, is right on with the median. If you looked at the whole Arkansas river drainage that goes all the way out to the, you know, end of the state, eastern end of the state, southern Colorado across the entire state did not have a great winter overall, you know, from start to almost spring here. So those are substantially lower. So it looks like the Arkansas River is way below the median, but the upper arc is actually right on the median. So I wouldn't expect like a huge, you know, early season trail options. We're probably going to be close on openings for a lot of these, similar to the last several years, depending on how hot it gets, how soon in the end of May and June. You know, the San Juans, all of southern Colorado, all the way across the state didn't do great, so they plow those open down there anyway. So those may track a little bit earlier on those conditions with those are crews getting out and moving snow. But since they don't naturally melt out, it's probably not going to be a massive difference. But central Colorado, you know, until we can really get out on those trails and see above St. Elmo and stuff, and Half Moon outside of Leadville and things, I wouldn't make any prediction beyond that. But it was not like a down year. It's tracking right on the median in and around central Colorado. So in a minute we'll take a look at this route and then others, so that you, at least for now, until everything is fully updated, know how to find seasonal closures, where to look. So there are, if you get to the emblem maps, the seasonal closed routes with a seasonal closure are highlighted around them. So the, you know, white and black kind of dashed lines that show the motorized routes, if they have a highlight around those, the light gray, that means there's a seasonal closure on that route. Then you go down to the route table, you find the route number, and then it'll show you the dates allowed for that route, so the dates that it's open. Whereas some of the confusion comes in, like with the route that we were just at up there past Cottonwood Lake, and some of the other ones in Pike and San Isabel National Forest, is there were additional seasonal closures added in 2022 in that decision, but not all of the maps have been updated or reproduced to reflect that. So the forest issues a wheeled motorized closure order then for the last couple of years that lists all of the closures, since the maps aren't done. So you would also have to check that to see see what the allowed dates are, and that's where I'll show you this one is. So if you just looked at the Salida District emblem, it's not on there yet until that map is updated, but it is on the forest order closure list. And I'll pull those up on the computer so we can show you how to search for emblems, and then also how to find the seasonal closure data. It saves a lot of people time doing that instead of always asking questions online or trying to figure it out. Just find the forest that you're looking for, Forest Service District, find the emblem, pull the emblem up and check it out. And for the most part, like, I contribute to Trails Off-Road, and I know a lot of the riders in Colorado, they're really good about keeping everything accurate. We use the seasonal closure data, the emblem, the forest orders, all of that, to then identify that on the routes for a seasonal closure. So if I pull up Mineral Basin here, you will see in red that it does reflect that accurately, that there is a seasonal closure. And then when that's routes open and I go up there and check, then we'll toggle that off and we'll post a trip report for what the actual conditions are. So let's look at how you find the seasonal designations, and then even how you find an emblem here real quick. So what I've got is just in a simple search engine. I typed in Salida District emblem. So that would be the district that I'm in currently here in the San Isabel National Forest, is Salida District. So you can be as simple as this. You don't even have to type in the National Forest. And then what will happen, the first thing that shows up is motor vehicle use maps here. Now, if I click on that, that's going to take me to this Forest Service page. And if you scroll down, we have the Cimarron National Grasslands. So that one was done in 2019. We have the Comanche National Grasslands in 2019. Leadville Ranger District. So these are the updated ones. So Leadville has a 2024 map, but see, Salida is still the 2017 map. So that map was before the 22 decision. San Carlos has the new one. Pikes Peak is only 2018. South Park is 19. South Platte is 2020. So there's only two of them that have been updated since that 2022 decision with the new dates, which is Leadville and then San Carlos. So let me show you Leadville. So I click over here to the Leadville map. Now, if you go down, the seasonal route tables then are right here. So it shows all of the routes that have the seasonal designation. There's the highlight that I talked about earlier that is surrounding the white and black dashed lines. And then it says the dates that are allowed for those seasonal routes. So you can go around. Let's look at some of them. There's a bunch of them up here around turquoise. So see, all of these routes have that shading around them. Whoops. Go back down here. And, you know, this is around Twin Lake. So all these that are on the side of Mount Elbert there. So like 122, let's say. So let's go over here. You could go down 122 right there. So that is allowed from May 16th through November 30th. So on May 16th, that route will open this year. That's how you use the seasonal tables on an emblem. And then if we go to the order, so here's the order. Remember, I had this one pulled up, which is 344. This is Mineral Basin, where I just was. It says it's seasonally closed. This is 344. So if we pull up, here's the order that was signed. So that was signed at the first of this year for the, prohibiting wheeled motorized travel on routes. And you go down, they have them listed by district. So here's the Salida district. So we would go down, and then we find 344 right here. And it's in different segment lengths, but all three of these correspond. So it's not, their dates actually don't even match up. This one says April 16th. The sign says April 15th. Most all the dates in the Salida district that are mid-April are April 15th. So I don't know why these got one off. That probably meant in the data when they were doing this that it was allowed April 16th and this one was closed until April 15th. So that's probably why that is. But we'll go with the sign. The sign says April 15th. We're going to go up there on the 15th. But that's how you would find that. Let's go down. There's one that's unfortunate that I have to update, which is South Platte. A lot of people ask about Slaughterhouse. So that's 101 and 105. These are the segments of Slaughterhouse Gulch that's outside of Bailey there. This is supposed to open April 1st. So it's supposed to be allowed. It's April 10th. now when I'm looking at this, and that gate is still not open. And they supposedly went in there and looked around it and said that it's not fully passable. What I heard was snow and ice from the district. So they're not going to unlock the gate, and they're going to look at it again next week. And that's an unfortunate thing because we have this date that says that's when it's allowed. But then, you know, once we get a gate that starts controlling things, the reasons to keep the gate closed start to stack up, whether they're real or not real. At one time, there was no gate on Slaughterhouse, and you could go use it, and you could snow wheel and do different things like I was doing in parts of this video. And now we have a gate, we have a date, but now the gate's not even open on a date. So if and when that does open, we will update you when Slaughterhouse opens. But this is how you can look at that information. I'll drop a link to this forest order in the copy of the video. But if you need to search for an emblem, just go through and, you know, click, just search something simple. And then you can bring up the list of emblems. You could search by Forest Service, you could search by, or forest, you could search by district, and then bring those up. Go down through, get your information so you know what's happening. So we're also taking a look up here just above Clearcreek Reservoir, and as you can see, pretty much 100% open water. There's a little bit of ice down there towards the end of the reservoir, but everything else totally open, looks pretty good. So we're about 4 miles in now. This is Missouri Gulch Trailhead. I still have not seen snow impact the road to the point where you'd actually have to drive through it. There's some on the very edges, but yeah, 4 miles in, still going. See what we find. So we are right at 10,000 feet now of elevation. I'm almost to the Clausy turnoff, and this is the first part where we kind of see snow starting to impact the road. So right about 10,000 feet on the Clearcreek side, at least up here. So we'll go a little farther and see what we can find. So here's a Crescent mining camp. This is right at the turnoff to Clausy, Forest Service Road 381. And I was here last year on April 21st, and the snow levels look almost exactly the same, honestly. So I'm shooting this part of the video on April 10th, so that's 11 days apart from 1 year ago. We'll probably go down there here in a minute when we come back. So we're rolling into the town side of Winfield now. A couple tracks in front of us. We drove through a little bit of snow back there, not really that much, not that bad. So we'll take the left fork over here towards Huron Lake Hand Trailhead and see what it looks like down the way. So it's not a ton of snow. You can see the sign down there for the bridge just past Winfield. It's a little crunchy. I'm still at street pressure from driving up here, so probably drop it down a little bit to go around the corner there. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, so we're down to about 4 now. I don't have another vehicle with me today, so we probably won't push it too much, but we'll go see what it looks like up here, see what we can find. So I'm right at about 10.4 right now, and it's deep. It's honestly not great snow wheeling snow at the moment. It's pretty crusty with sugar underneath, so I have to call it here just because I'm by myself and I can turn around right there. There's a little bit of a water bar, so it'll make it easy to spin around. If I had another vehicle with me, we'd probably push a little bit farther. So we got another half a mile farther last year on April 21st when I told you we were up here, so 11 days later than it is right now. I could get there, like I said, if I had another vehicle, so it's pretty close. There's a little more snow now than there was last year, obviously with that 10-day difference, but it's definitely not extremely down. Snowfall seems very consistent with where we were at this time last year, at least in the Clearcreek drainage. And I'll know more about the Cottonwood drainage and some other places when we have a chance to check those out. But we'll turn around here, go down and look at the Clausy Road. So there you go on the Lake Ann side after Winfield. I'm not quite a mile past, I'd say maybe 3/4 of a mile past Winfield. Up here, deep snow, really deep snow before I get to 10.5. So if you tracks like this though, once you start laying down tracks, and we have some warmer temps coming up, it's really nice up here today. Tracks melt out really fast. So if you're coming up here in the next couple days and you have a capable vehicle of handling snow, and you're looking at hitting any of these peaks or getting somewhere up here. I passed one rental vehicle already when I was coming up, not this high, but before the town of Winfield. So people, are already coming in to Colorado renting vehicles and pushing into the mountains around the 14ers. Yeah, there's your report from above Clear Creek and above Winfield. So here we are back down at Clausy, 381, right there. We're going to turn down, see what it looks like down by the creek. So it looks like somebody drove down right to where I was sitting right now, but it doesn't look like they went out into the water. It's definitely not high water yet, because we're not even close to peak runoff, which is around the second week of June. But we'll go out and see. We'll see what the water depth looks like. So there's just a little bit of a snowbank here on the other side. It's probably only 6-8 inches at the deepest at the moment. We'll go over here and look at the second creek. Second creek looks similar. There's definitely some ice, a little bit of snow. See if we can ease it up through there. So I am kind of surprised. I made it up, well, past the creek in our sign there, and up that first hill there's a switchback in it, and then there's kind of an open shelf road. Sometimes that holds snow. There's a little bit of snow at the top of that, but not enough to prevent us from coming up here. So we're past that first hill and kind of winding through the first part of the trees now on Clausy. We're probably getting close to the end of the line here. Again, I'm by myself today, so I can't really push the limits, and snow conditions, as I said before, not great. They're not getting any better, and it is fairly deep up here. I'll check the elevation in a minute when we stop. And then one last thing at the end of this video, unfortunately my mic got knocked off. You may have heard it in a couple clips earlier. So these sections of video here didn't get the audio, but this is where I stopped. You can see in front of us there, it's pretty slanted to the downhill. Still really deep snow, you know, deep pillowy snow across everything. So if you get to that section, you can have problems with the back end starting to walk out. I usually stop here almost every year that I've been up here. It's a little bit before the avalanche chute. You can kind of see it over there. If I kind of walk back over to this side, we might be able to get a little bit better view of it. But there's the first really big avalanche chute that you come to on Clausy. It was, you know, blocked in 2019 for quite some time. That chute right there runs across the road up there. So that's one of the waypoints on Trails Off-Road. That's about 1.5 miles up. So we're just shy of that Abbey chute. And this is actually the last really good place to turn around before you start getting out there on that side lean snow. So this is usually where I back up, kind of do a 5-point turnaround, and then start to head back down. So that's your report for this week. Deep snow in central Colorado at 10.5. Watch for, you know, future reports. I try and get those out every 7 to 10 days as the season really starts to ramp up here. So, and we'll add to our list of trails and conditions and seasonal updates in the post, so you can just look at the post or you can watch the video.